craft beer friends, and welcome to Season 9, Episode 18 of Tap the Craft Podcast. I am Denny Luce, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How are you doing tonight? I hear you might be slightly hungover.
I feel a lot better. I had lots of fluids. I made sure my lower GI was taken care of.
Okay.
Had some electrolytes. I got up back and running pretty quickly. So I do it with a purpose in mind.
Okay.
So I'm gonna share this too.
Oh.
So that
share
way.
Something. If you're watching live, or you go back and watch us.
Well, if you're watching live, you should definitely be sharing the live feed on your own page. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, but I don't expect too many people. We are a day late, but you did notify them we would be a day late. So
yeah,
maybe we'll
a
get
week
some of our
early.
regulars on.
So it was a day late and a week early. We'll find out who really likes us.
Yeah. What are you sharing? You're taking your time.
I shared the live stream.
Oh! I thought you were sharing something on the feed.
No.
I thought you said you got something to share. Okay. Well, we are live, Chris.
Yep.
We're doing
Certainly
it live.
am. I just shared our live feed.
So what exactly did you do? You went down or up?
So
or
I went.
over?
That would be up. So I went up to
okay.
Jacksonville to visit my dad.
Oh.
And got to spend some time with Rodney for a little bit, and then took about a day and a half and went over to St. Augustine, which is the country's oldest city.
The country. Wait, the country? Like
this country's
entire...
oldest city.
Really? Okay.
Yes, founded in like 14 or 1500 something.
Okay.
I mean, we went on like historical tours too, which was pretty cool. But again, we were day drinking a lot. So
yeah.
But yeah. I'm done sharing that. Why is this random crap all over my screen? What is going on here?
Okay. Well, I'm doing fine.
Yeah. Oh, she's sorry. Danny, how are you today? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, just looking forward to getting together, talking about some beer, drinking some beer with you, finding out how your last couple of weeks have gone, and visiting with our listeners, and have some great stuff in this episode. So, but before we get into all that great stuff, we always want to let anyone new listening to Tap to Craft Podcast know what we're all about. We are an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer, because we want to assist you, our listener, along in your craft beer journeys and adventures. And you are listening to episode 226, and this week we are recording on Tuesday, March 21st. I got an extra digit in there.
Well, you said Tuesday, and that threw you off. I knew it did.
Yeah, Tuesday. At least I got that right. And then and it is the 21st today, 2023. And as you guys probably know, we normally record on a Monday, and this week we're just one day off because Chris had to go out and have fun, and we support Chris having fun. I said, yeah, we're going to do this a day late. No problem. I'll just bust this thing out super fast to get it done and out in the airways on Thursday.
Well, thank you for the support.
Of course. And we are live on Facebook. If you would like to join us during our recording session, you can do that just by checking us out on Facebook usually the Monday before our release date, which is a Thursday, and watch us live at 8:30 Eastern Time. You can do that. And in this episode, we are going to be discussing the history of the English or British pub. Yes, some history. Yeah, find out how this whole pub thing got started and how it changed over the years, as well as our beer tastings with the Minnesota and Wisconsin beer. Not really Wisconsin, it's actually going to be an Illinois beer, but from our buddy in Wisconsin. These are provided by two great listeners who like to just want to share good beer from their states, as well as you can count on Chris and I having some great conversation along the way. And this episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, Bill Schlemmer, Kevin and Amanda Argauer, Mark Reedy, Mike Blanchard, Tara Carlson, and Jim Kutzall, and Alex Fuchs, who are our virtual producers, and Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Chad Lamassa, Mark Church, and Eric Gronley, who want to buy us a virtual beer. If you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your hosts or buying us a virtual beer, or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. Okay, you notice we didn't talk about the beers we're drinking because right now our glasses are empty. But they won't be empty for long because we're going to go ahead and start our first beer tasting of the night. And this beer is the Indeed Brewing Company's Mixed Nuts Cream Ale.
These nuts?
And these nuts, yeah, nice. And this beer is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, brought to us by Eric Gronley. It is a 5.5% ABV, 15 IBUs, and the rating on Untapped, 3.84 with over 1,100 ratings so far. And I've had one of these beers. I had the pistachio one.
Same.
But I can't remember how I got that one.
They sent it to us. Somebody sent it to us. And
somebody sent it to us, yeah.
I believe.
Was it Bill Slimmer or was it?
I don't know.
Somebody sent us the pistachio one, and I don't remember. So we apologize. We have bad memories.
Well, you apologize. I don't. All I do is say thank you.
Okay. No problem.
I do.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and we'll pour this beer into our glass.
It was from Bill Schlemmer.
It was from Bill. Did he answer us already?
No, I looked at my check-in. Thank you, William S.
So.
And then, yeah.
Nice job. Okay.
So let's crack this thing open.
Yeah. So we cracked this thing open. Very effervescent. Effervescent. I'm having trouble speaking today. So
I noticed.
It's a problem. I haven't even been drinking yet, but my words just aren't coming out properly. But effervescent, nice bubbles coming up here, a nice white head, slightly off-white head, one finger, holding strong, mostly coarse bubbles in this head. There are a few fine bubbles in there, but not super fine. So it's not super creamy looking. It's more coarse looking. Let me read what the brewery has to say about this. It says a spritz mingle of hazelnuts, almonds, and roasted chestnuts. Mixed nuts cream ale is a delightful mixed bag with a salty finish. Mouthful after mouthful, this cream ale is nuttier than ever, and each sip is better than the last. So let's go ahead and take a sniff of this thing.
You said salty finish.
Salty finish. Well, you know what?
That smells
got a
great.
nose. You got a nutty nose.
Nutty nose, salty finish. I just can't wait to put it in my mouth.
I can definitely. Wow. The nuts come across pretty strong in this.
This is going to be us being 12-year-olds, isn't it?
And it is. It is pretty nutty.
Good.
But I'm getting the hazelnut and maybe some of the chestnuts as well.
I'm getting some of that the bready smell too.
Yeah, some bready smell. I think the nuts are going to blend in with the malt pretty good.
That smells so good.
But it does smell really good. Not overly strong, subtle essence of these nuts, but it comes across pretty. You can smell it pretty good. Okay, let's take a sip.
Jim Kudzall said he's drinking his brown ale homebrew, and Eric Butzik said, "Have fun, Chris. You deserve it." And I said, "Yes, sir. We all do."
Wow, what I like about this beer is it tastes like a cream ale, and then just
a little bit of nuttiness.
Just these little bit of nut character in, that kind of tingle around your mouth, that kind of just gives you some nutty flavor. Very nice. I'm tasting the hazelnut and maybe even some almond in there. And it kind of depends on when I'm like kind of moving my tongue around my mouth what I get. But Yeah, this is very enjoyable.
I'm going to be curious to know how this turns out as it starts to warm up a little bit too, because mine's still rather cold.
Mine's the mine's the perfect temperature for a cream ale right now.
Oh, I prefer my nuts warm. So I mean, let's see what happens when the beer gets there too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those shows.
And I also
Uh,
have realized again, still kind of getting everything unpacked in the house. Found this.
you know what? I was gonna bring mine up. I actually been using it.
You
It
do.
works out great, when you go out and get some beers and you're only planning on having one and you have three, but you just want to make sure that you're cleared. You waited enough time and you're not you didn't like pound them. And sure enough, it's great to give you that hint that yeah, I'm way below the legal limit. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't judge by how you feel. I feel great, but heck, I feel great all the time. So, but yeah, this is nice. I like the fact that it is very subtle nut character, and the beer comes through. The cream ale, which is a subtle beer style, a lot of times really has a cream ale character. You know that the cereal malt characters coming through, or bready crust character, not heavy, but there, and then those nuts just kind of move around your mouth.
If you're not watching this on live, you're missing out on a lot of great facial expressions. For at least from me, I have my eyes
uh,
closed in
uh,
kind of disgust right now. I don't
it's
even know what
okay,
Denny's
but
doing.
yeah. Well, hey, thank you, Eric, for providing us with some good laughs, chuckles. Hopefully, not losing too many listeners
Mm,
that don't appreciate our juvenile sense of humor. But
listen,
it is a good beer. I enjoyed this pistachio one, and I'm enjoying this one as well.
yeah, me too.
Okay, let's read what Eric had to say about it. He said, "I enjoyed this one. I thought the hazelnut and almond came through the most. It had a slight savory finish that I wasn't mad about either. Savory. I can
At the very end, after you let it,
yeah,
after it
yeah.
disappears, yeah, I can see that.
I agree. I didn't think about that until I just read his comment, but he's right. After you think about it, there is a bit of a savoriness, and it might just be the fact that you're mixing the three different nut characters in there, and it provides some kind of a weird kind of sensation. But it's not off-putting because I didn't even notice it really until he made a comment about it, and I realized that that is kind of savory,
Yeah.
but it's good. Hmm. Okay, great beer. Thank you, Eric. Um, I think probably if I were to rate this right now before I finish it, I'll probably give it a 3.5. Nothing wrong with it. It's right around that 3.8. Maybe I'll go to 3.75. That would be closer to the average. I don't know why I wouldn't. Um, it's got a lot of good characters to it, but I'll save my rating until after the show when I think about it some more and finish the beer. I still got um, look. I got to pour the rest of my beer in this thing. Still got some beer to drink, but like Chris, I think I'm going to let it warm up a little bit and see if more of that character comes out,
Hmm. Hmm.
and if I decide to up that rating a little bit more. But
So
thank
one
you
of
very much for that beer.
yeah, one of yes, thank you, Eric, for sending that one out. One of the things as I'm going through this check-in for the Untapped listing, one of the flavor profiles that gets listed frequently is creamy. I don't know why.
Maybe I mean, do you think maybe they had it on Nitro Draft to say it was on Nitro?
So I don't know, and if anybody can clarify this, if you add a beer to Untapped, whether you're the brewery or you're trying a beer somewhere, you don't see it listed, so you add it. Do you get to choose the flavor profiles that you think would most fit this beer, or is it kind of pick the ones that are most chosen?
No, so there's no profiles when you add a beer. Because I've added a ton of beer. So
No, that's why they took all your check-ins off.
yeah, I said, this joker's
Who
adding
is
all these
this
beers and
guy?
checking into them. But no, the brewery, the name of the beer, the brewery, the style, the IBUs and ABV,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Okay.
That's all you get. The brewery itself that has that owns the brewery on Untapped, they
Hmm.
are the only ones also that can put images like they can put the tap handle or bottle label image,
Okay.
whatever. They're the ones that control that. Now, when I did work, I took care of the Untapped stuff for the Kilted Dragon Brewery. I was in charge of their Untapped, so I uploaded all the images for all the beers and added all the beers when they came out and did all that stuff
Oh.
myself. So I had special brewery admin rights for that brewery. If you go look at Kilted Dragon, which I recommend you do, they've been out of business for a long time, but they had some fantastic artwork and names of beers and stuff. So all you see on there, I added all that stuff. That was all me. Part of my responsibility as a social media manager
Oh.
for
You.
free.
I know what you're talking about. I know how you feel.
Yeah. So yeah, a little bit of other inside news there. Okay, let's move on. Like I said, we're going to try to get through our stuff, and because I got to get this thing edited pretty quick after we get done. So, some feedback from the last episode. Yes, I have some feedback. First off, um, I don't know. You want to read Alex's
I'll
comments
do
on
Alex's
Facebook?
and then you can
Yeah,
do the next one.
sure.
So Alex responded to our Facebook post. He said, FYI, all the check-ins you saw on Untapped were done in Sofia, Bulgaria.
That's right,
He had a
Bulgaria.
lot of check-ins when we were going through Untapped last episode, and we were kind of in awe with all the beers that he had checked into. Continuing on here, he says, one of the most exciting and innovative craft beer destinations I recently discovered. The amount of different breweries and styles, both local and from Europe, is amazing. We are going to go back there in June for the Balkan Beer Bash 2023, which serves a huge variety of European beers. By the way, also very relevant to this episode because our last episode talked about beer fests.
Yeah.
And he said, I think this fest is just great. He said, check it out. Maybe you can join also. I still need to go get my passport.
Well, you don't have a passport? Come
I
on,
don't. I
man.
never have.
You got to be ready on the moment to go out of the country and go have fun.
You're right.
It's
I
great.
do.
It's great. Yeah, so that was good. I thought he was in Bulgaria, but I was also then starting to question myself. But yeah, I'm glad he had a good time, and he did check into a lot of beers. In fact, he checked into so many beers that our buddy John Ream, the first time in like 3 years, he checked into Untapped, and at the time when we should have read his check-in, and we missed it because I think it must have been between one of Alex's and Chris. You may have just
Yeah, I probably scrolled through, and I did it
yeah
on purpose just because it was John.
yeah.
I said
But
it here, John, because I know you're going to hear this. I skipped your check-in on
uh,
purpose.
but speaking of John Ream, he also responded through text messages to both Chris and I in response to Beer Fest breweries being able to serve beer at Beer Fest in Ohio. He says, in Ohio, we aren't allowed to pour at Beer Fest by state law. We can have reps there to talk about the beer, but we cannot be a part of the transaction to take a token and pour a beer for someone. It is because it is viewed as providing a service to a retailer. And this is because the fest is buying the beer. The same law that prohibits AB InBev from providing draft systems and such at bars. So,
Hmm.
wow, very interesting. And he's mentioned that before. I just forgot about it. But yeah, some states do have weird laws or laws that make sense if you don't want to have big business, big companies come in and mow over all the little guy. But interesting that you can't, you could be there, just can't interact with the Patreon as far as serving him beer, taking his token. Okay, that was it. We got some feedback. Love it, love it. If you want to provide your feedback, like our buddy Alex and John did, You can contact the show with your comments through email at taptocraft@gmail.com or on Twitter and Instagram at taptocraft. And of course, as Alex did, on our Facebook page at facebook.com/taptocraft. We also have a Tap to Craft podcast website. Go visit it, taptocraft.com. We have a voicemail line. We have not had a voicemail since the 29th of December.
What?
Yeah, it's been 3 months since we had a voicemail. So come on, people. Go ahead and dial this number
You know
up.
what?
208.
536-3359, right?
Yeah. 208-536-3359. Or if it's easier for you to remember, 208-53-ODDLY, because we're just such oddly dudes. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us what you liked. Answer a question. Talk about Beer Fest. Do you like Beer Fest or not? Talk about the beers you're drinking. Talk about your craft beer journey.
I feel kind of disappointed that I didn't call yesterday.
Yeah, you didn't drunk dial us.
I know.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Okay, so I'm sure that somebody will respond to us. I'm sure they will. Okay, also, we do have a Discord server for the community to interact with one another, and this is in a more private space reserved just for the Tap to Craft community. We do have a few active members in there. It's a place where we have different channels. You can go ahead and just put a comment or post a link or whatever, right? We have all kinds of different things that are all craft beer related, and we even have a topic section that if it's not craft beer related but cool, that you want to share as well. If you want to ask us to do a topic, you can do that, because guess what? The topic being presented today was suggested by a listener on our Discord channel. So go visit Discord. You can find the site at the link at the top of our webpage, or you can go to our Linktree app or site at link, like linktr.ee/taptocraft. Has links to all of the things you need to go get to that we support. And one of them is our Discord server. So sign up and interact. It's fun. I even saw, Chris, you actually posted something.
I have twice now.
Time. Twice?
I have twice now. Yeah. Yep. We're moving right along, but
yeah.
Twice now I've been on there.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, guess what time it is?
Is it time to untap the craft?
It is. It's time to continue the conversation because it's time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untapped.
So remember to follow me on Untapped, guys, at MCK1345. And we read your check-ins approximately 24 hours before we record. But, we threw a curveball in on this one since it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, we did.
So we're recording on an off day. But first one I'm going to check in or read is from March 6th.
What?
March 6th. Mr. John Ream.
Oh, okay.
Is drinking a Trappist West Vlerteren 12.
Oh, wow. Nice beer.
By Brewery de Sint.
It's Belgian.
Yeah, it looks Belgian. He said he got this for a Christmas gift. It's a great Christmas gift. Deep plum and cherry and pepper notes. 5 cap rating. Oh, wait. You wanted me to read this check-in, John, but you only tagged Denny? I see how it is. I'll make sure I toast it too. There we go. You want me to read your check-in?
Oh,
you only tagged Denny.
Yeah, the rivalry goes on. Never ending, is it?
No. God, the day that it ends that's a bad thing. Okay. Well, I have to read this one because you and I were both tagged on it. But it was a little further than 24 hours ago, but I have to read it just because of Eric Gronley's comment. So Eric commented on the beer. He said, "Damn, this sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear Chris read this one."
Okay, let's hear it.
So checking in, Mr. Matt Knight is drinking an Excavator by Big Ditch Brewing Company. And he said, a nice brown ale with that's a fantastic blend. Hey, I'm just reading them as I see it. A nice brown ale with that's a fantastic blend of chocolate and malt. But the touch of rye gives it a little bite that is a fantastic touch to a brown ale. This is fan-fucking-tastic. You're welcome, Eric. 4.5 caps for that check-in. Mr. David Martin has checked into a ton of beer in the last 24 hours. So, David, if I see ones that stand out as I'm scrolling through, I'll see if I can't check them in. But you have been doing a lot of drinking in the last 24 hours, my friend. So, cheers to that. Johan Halberg is drinking a Black Heart by Brewdog at Brewdog.
Cheers.
So it looks
to
like
you,
he's
Johan.
checking into the brewery there. No notes or cap rating on that one, but cheers to that wonderful check-in. Also checking into the Planet Pale by Brewdog as well. Let's see. Next on the list is going to be Lauren F. is checking into a couple of beers. Oh, Eric Gronley said, I was looking for that last line, Chris, and you delivered. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your support. We just can't do it too much, or then we'll have to put an explicit tag on this thing. Lauren F. is drinking a Maui Wowie IPA by Altamont Beer Works. I drove by there today. 4 cap rating, but no notes to go along with it. It looks like she's on a little bit of an IPA beer flight. She also checked into The Dopest by Crowns and Hops, 4 cap rating on that one. And also Pineapple Vanilla Milkshake Double IPA by Brewery X, 3 3/4 caps for that one. Bill Schlemmer is drinking a Rascal Pie by 26 Degree Brewing at the Drake Tower. He said it's pleasant, easy drinking, sour, tart. Pleasant, easy drinking, sour, tart, but not overly so. Plenty of lemon and blueberry flavor with a touch of sweetness. 4 cap rating for that beer. Drinking it out of your fancy glass, I see, Bill. Continuing his check-in streak, Mr. Chad Lamassa is drinking a Tall Horns by Heist Brewery. Simply put, this is yummy. 4.5 caps for this one, and it's a Hellerbach, so it's guess what it has on the can?
Oh, wow. A goat.
It's got a goat. All right.
I guess right, right?
You did. And I learned something last episode.
that Denny's always right.
You're starting to sound like someone else in my household, but let's not go there.
I'm not always right, by the way, so it's okay.
You know what? You're right.
I know, right?
David Martin, I have to read your check-in for this one because I've had the regular version of this one from Tripping Animals. I wouldn't have given it a high of rating as this, but I haven't had the dark version of it. David Martin is drinking a Dark No Mames by Tripping Animals, and their usual one, just No Mames, is a Mexican lager, kind of like a Corona, but way better. I'd be curious to know about what the dark one is as soon as that loads up.
So does Tripping Animals do beers that aren't just sour or tart beers?
Yeah, so this is this beer is a Mexican lager.
But does it have lime in it to give it a tartness or anything?
Well, the original one, no. Okay. This one is a Mexican style dark lager, which it's one that I really like the label art on because it's a little chihuahua on it. So Jeff Seiler and myself have both checked into an IPA that they put out. It had an alligator on it. I mean, I had to buy it just because of the label, but they put out some really good things. So yeah, if you can find more of them, make sure you grab them. Speaking of Jeff Seiler, he's drinking a rye whiskey barrel-aged Manhattan ale by Highwire Brewing. He's at the Blue Ridge Beer Hub. Excuse me, these nuts are making me burp.
Yeah, me too. I've been trying to hold it back.
Jeff said, barley wine aged in rye whiskey barrels with orange peel and cherry. Well done. 4.5 cap rating for that beer. And it looks like he tagged Mr. Bill Schlemmer on it. Or no, Bill gave him a cheers to that one. JC is drinking a Cheerwine ale by No Da Brewing. Cheerwine just sounds good. what kind of beer is it though? But he gave it a 4 cap rating, didn't put any notes to go along with it. You familiar with Cheerwine, Denny?
No,
The
that's a
soda?
style. It's actually it's a
So
style.
Cheerwine is kind of like a fruity cherry soda, kind of like
Oh,
it's kind of, and maybe my North Carolina, South Carolina folks can correct me on this one, but it's kind of a way of life uh,
oh,
for some. Um,
but
but this is
it's not alcoholic. It's just
it is
a soda.
non-alcoholic. It's just like a regular soda, but
Okay.
it's kind of got a cult following. And now they're making a beer called Cheerwine Ale, not the Cheerwine Company, but it's just called Cheerwine Ale. It's a wheat beer, um, crafted with the perfect touch of cherry.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Next on the list, Jeff Seiler again is drinking this is a chocolate stout, and you need it by Westbrook Brewing Company. Marketing at its best. Big chocolate and roasty imperial stout, delicious. I would pair this with a slice of peanut butter pie.
Talking about chocolate stouts, I've had that Samuel Smith's organic chocolate stout
Mm-hmm.
many times, and I've really enjoyed it in the past. I had one last night, one of those big bottles, and I'll tell you what, I was kind of disappointed. I don't know if something's changed in the way they're making it, but it just didn't have that same pop that I've I've had in the past with that beer. So it's interesting
I
comment there.
wonder if say so other than the one you just had, how long ago do you think it's been since you've had one?
Probably 3 or 4 years ago. Probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay, I was gonna say maybe it's just because our beers get more flavorful as the years go
Maybe.
by, and we
Yeah.
just go, oh well, this original type of beer that's been around for decades now just
Yeah.
doesn't do it for us anymore.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I had a better experience with it when there wasn't as many great stouts out there. But yeah, I was. It was just kind of. It was just okay, and I sensed more like almost artificial, flavoring in it instead
Hmm.
of because I know it's not. I know they has always put flavoring in it, but it felt like this time that flavoring wasn't. It was maybe they used a different company for the flavoring, and it just gives off a weird flavor than what it used to. Maybe that's it as well. Or maybe it's just super old. I didn't check the bottle
That
date.
could have
Maybe
been
it was just
too. I mean, I
yeah.
feel like I see those things at our local grocery stores. I see those things at,
Hmm.
you know, our Total Wine and More, and they've got some of them have dust on the bottle.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
they could just be sitting there and the flavors fall out of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Next on the list is going to be, I'm going to get David Martin again, just because this one, I love this beer. He's drinking a Parabola from
Oh yeah.
2023 by
Great beer.
Firestone Walker Brewing Company. He's drinking this one at the Greenville Beer Exchange. He gave this one 4.25 caps to go along with it. And Chad Lamassa again drinking a
Oh,
chocolate hazelnut French toasted by Black Flag Brewing Company. He said it's a bit too syrupy for me, but the chocolate and hazelnut flavors are amazing. 4 cap rating to go along with that one. And let's hit refresh to
I'm
make sure we
glad that
didn't
Chad
miss
got in
any.
his check-in.
Yeah, he got 2 of them in here,
Nice.
which is good. Let's see. Mark Connor drinking a 2 pence in the shilling by Diametric Brewing Company. Nose is malty sweetness. Taste is a nice bread maltiness, not as sweet as the nose. 4 cap rating for that one.
What style was it?
2 pence in the shilling is
A
a
mild
Scottish ale,
Scottish ale. Okay.
a 3.7% Scotch ale.
Yeah, that's what
I
most
like
of
that.
the Scottish ales are low alcohol. Oh, good. Nice.
And I got
Okay.
to get this last one in.
Oh, one more.
Oh, wait, calm down. I'm almost there. Matt Knight is drinking you get the first and the last one, Matt. Nice. Matt Knight is drinking a Churchill Reserve by Warhorse Brewing. And he said, just a fantastic variant of their breakfast with Churchill, 4.25 caps. And I bet this one's fan-fucking-tastic too. Sorry, I had to. Eric, that one was for you though. But Denny, that is what everybody is drinking.
Okay. All right. Great beers, everyone. Keep it up. We love seeing what you're drinking. Now it's time for our Beer Speak 101. We did skip it last episode because we had a big show. But don't worry, I brought it back. And this week, we're going to discuss, well, what is Beer Speak 101? It's where we briefly define common and not so common beer terminology. In this episode, we will discuss the term pub. Wow, that's great because we're going to talk about English pubs, so we might as well figure out what a pub is.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yes, I planned this just the way I did. The word pub is short for public house, which is an establishment for the sale of beer and other drinks, and sometimes also food to be consumed on the premises. Pubs mostly have a large selection of just different kinds of beer, some wines, and cider. Because of its full menu, a pub generally allows minors if accompanied by an adult. Now, how does a pub differ from a bar? Well, bars specialize in liquor rather than food and tend to offer a wide selection of cocktails in addition to usual alcoholic beverages. And typically, minors are not allowed to go into a bar. All right, that's our Beer Speak 101. That's what a pub is, and that's also how it's different from a bar. Okay, Chris, what do you think? You're good to go through the brew buzz, or do you want to? How do you want to do this? Brew buzz, then beer tasting.
Well, is your glass empty?
Is your glass empty?
It is.
Mine's empty too. So you want to go ahead and do another tasting?
I think we should go ahead and start the tasting so we have something to lubricate our faces while we're reading through this.
Okay, that sounds fantastic to me. Break out a new glass as well. Well, let me scroll down.
Tony, how are you, sir?
To our beer tasting. So, our beer tasting, our next and last beer tasting of the show is from our listener, Bill Schlemmer. He provided us with this Phase 3 Brewing P3 Rye Lager. This is not a Wisconsin beer. He's from Wisconsin, but it is a beer from Lake Zurich, Illinois.
I can't see it. Tony Romanek just hopped on. He's a good friend of mine. Guess what state? Illinois.
Ohio?
Illinois. Tony, you show up and we drink Illinois beer. Look at that.
Yeah, so if we're going to be drinking this P3 Rye Lager from Phase 3, and it is 7.3% ABV. Yeah, we're going big now. It's got an average rating of 3.93 caps with 911 ratings so far. After Chris and I, we'll make it 913. Let's go ahead and open this thing up and pour it into our glass. Oh, yeah.
That smells lovely.
Pouring a nice amber.
Tony said he's got to send us some Dovetail that he's enjoying at their local pub. Tony, do you know what the difference between a pub and a bar is? Because we just talked about that and I didn't know it. Ooh, that's lovely.
This is a lovely color. It is very reminiscent from our beer last week where we had that mahogany lager, right? This is very reddish amber, dark amber, maybe. Oh, wow. This smells very tasty. Okay.
Speaking of tasty, Joel Bigham just hopped on with us too.
Joel Bigham.
He said, "Oh, look, two privileged white men talking about the beer. The patriarchy is real." You never cease to amaze me, sir.
Well, thanks for joining us, Big Ham.
Joe Big Meat.
Big Meat. The Big Meat is here. But yeah, pour is very nice. Hey, did you notice that at least one of us is using...
Sorry, I'm using our official logoed glassware.
I support you 100%, Joel. Keep it up. Head is sticking around, too. I poured this thing a couple minutes ago. Bubbles are flowing out of this bottom and holding that head strong. That is a solid 2-finger, 1.5-finger head. Coarse and fine bubbles. Kind of a light tan head. Looks like it's creamy. Okay, let's take a sniff.
He said, "I see your B cup, sir. I see your B cup.
I,
Indeed. Thanks."
yes. The rye is very prominent in the aroma. You can't smell the rye in this, Mister?
No, my head disappeared. Oh, Mikey,
Your head disappeared?
it's gone. Yeah, and I run into this problem every time. I get so enthusiastic when I pour my beer in, and I never leave enough room at the top.
Yeah.
Such an amateur.
Yeah, it
Yeah, that is what
smells.
she said, Joel. Thank you. Oh, okay, now I'm getting
It
it.
smells of rye and smells of almost like a woody, earthy character as well. And maybe it's mixed in with some caramel. Smells good though.
Yeah.
It smells like an amber almost, but this is a rye lager. Okay, let's take a sip.
Noob mistakes. Let's do that again just for science.
Wow, this is a very unique beer. It definitely has the rye spiciness right up in your upper palate. Sticks around pretty strongly throughout the front, mid, and into the finish. Also has that characteristic of a lager, some of that lager malt. But the rye is very strong, which is good
It's
by me
very
because
good.
I love rye in my beer, and this is I would say this is more of a rye beer than it is a lager. This is heavy rye, and I love it. Yeah, I get a little bit of that. The caramel turns into more of a toffee, like a
It's a burnt sugar.
burnt sugar or burnt
It-
toffee character in there. Mixes really well with that rye character. They work well together. Um, wow, great beer.
Mhm.
I'm impressed. I'm telling you, these two guys, they didn't. Three guys, Jeff
Yeah.
with his blind tastings, Eric with Minnesota beers, and Bill with Wisconsin and Illinois beers. They haven't let us down. These beers have all been fantastic, and this is just as good as all the other ones.
No, they really are.
Well, let me see what they have to say from the brewery. It says, "We designed this beer for the fall. Oktoberfest provides some large shoes to fill. We think this does the job. 8 weeks in the making, this hearty 7.3% amber rye lager has a sweet, bready nose with subtle earthy spice from the Cara rye and malted rye malt used. Enough ABV to keep you warm." Yeah, this beer is fantastic, and it's absolutely earthy with the spice, and it gives you that. I mean, you can tell it right from the nose. Like smelling it, you smell earthiness, and tasting it, you have some earthiness. It does have a little bit of sweetness with that burnt brown sugar, or maybe burnt or heavy toffee character, but
Oh,
fantastic.
Miguel's on too. Miguel from the No More Pores podcast. This beer is so good.
Okay, wow. Um, I can't imagine me not following suit with a minimum of 4 cap rating with this. We'll wait and see how it turns out as I finish it, as it warms up a little bit. Um, but yeah, I love this beer. I love the flavor. I don't I and I love the fact that the rye really comes. There's a lot of rye in this beer, and it really comes out in a fantastic way that makes it very unique. So I would call this a rye beer with some lager characteristics in there, which I don't mind. I like it a lot. Okay, Chris, anything else you want to say about the beer?
I hope I can get
I
more
mean,
of
I
it.
did all the talking. Did you have any other comments you wanted to do about it?
Listen, that's normally how it works. You give all these details, and I say this to people all the time. You get all the details in there, and I go,
No?
It's good. It's good. I'd drink it again. It's good.
I would drink this. Yeah, I would drink. I would drink this over um, a lot of Oktoberfest that I had this year. To be
Careful.
honest.
Okay. No, I would agree with you on that one.
Yeah, because I do really enjoy a good Oktoberfest, and I had some fantastic ones this year, thanks to you, Chris. Two Oktoberfests from uh, Berry House
Mm-hmm.
that I both gave 5 cap ratings to because they were both unique, different styles of Oktoberfest, and they were both just rocked my socks off. Um, I don't know. This might get a 5 cap rating from me as just I as a rye beer. How is it? I wonder what its rate. What its is it a rye beer on Untapped or is it a amber lager on Untapped?
There is no way this could be an amber lager. Well, I don't. I
No,
say
no, it
that.
is. It is an amber lager. They said it. They brewed as an amber lager with rye, but they use two different ryes. You know, Cara rye and malted rye malt. So I mean, it's
That's.
a rye beer.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I like this a lot.
Phase
I'm
3.
happy, and if I could get this in my area, I would be drinking it all the time because it just hits everything I enjoy in a beer that's drinkable,
E3.
and it's not. It's and here's the other thing. I hate using the word balance all the time, but it balances out the sweetness, and it's not too sweet, right? It's got characteristics of sweetness, but you don't feel like it's that sweet. I think that rye character is really counteracting the sweetness that you get from that toffee type sweetness, and it really does well. It's drinkable. It is very drinkable,
Mm-hmm.
even at 7.3% ABV.
And yes, it is listed as an amber lager.
Okay.
Miguel wanted to know, why did they do that? He'll be here all week, folks.
That's a
Be
good
sure to tip
question.
your waitress.
That's a good question. All right. Hey, that is our last beer tasting. We're going to be continue drinking this beer while we talk about the Brew Buzz. And the Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. This week, as we already mentioned, we will be discussing the history of the English, or also known as British, pub. And this, as I mentioned, this topic was suggested by our listener, Will D, on our podcast topic section of our Discord server. You too can have your topics on the show if you bring it up in our Discord channel. And I got this information. This is pretty much word for word. I did change a few words, but I'm not going to deny that the link to this article will be on the show notes. And it is The Great British Pub, written by Ben Johnson, found on the historic UK website. Yes, I went to the source, Historic UK, to get this information. So I'll start it off. Chris, you'll just carry on, and we'll just bounce back and forth, and we'll get through this topic. Renowned the world over, the Great British Pub is not just a place to drink beer, wine, cider, or even something a little stronger. It is also a unique social center, very often the focus of community life in villages, towns, and cities throughout the length and breadth of the country. Again, the country being England. Yet it appears that the Great British Pub actually started life as a great Italian wine bar and dates back almost 2,000 years. It was an invading Roman army that first brought Roman roads, Roman towns, and Roman pubs known as tabernae to these shores in 43 AD. Such tabernae, or shops that sold wine, were quickly built alongside the Roman roads and in towns to help quench the thirst of the legionary troops. It was ale, however, that was the native British brew, and it appears that these tabernae quickly adapted to provide the locals with their favorite tipple, with the word eventually becoming corrupted to tavern. Okay, that's how tavern got
I am going to probably go and start calling them tabernays from now on.
tabernaes. Okay.
Yeah. Go down to the tabernae and grab us a pint.
These taverns or alehouses not only survive, but continue to adapt to an ever-changing clientele through invading Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and not forgetting those fearsome Scandinavian Vikings. In around 970 AD, one Anglo-Saxon king, Edgar, even attempted to limit the number of alehouses in any one village. How could he do that?
He didn't get
Revolt,
reelected.
revolt. Yeah. He is also said to have been
Well, I
responsible
didn't
for
vote for him.
he has also been said to be responsible for introducing a drinking measure known as the peg as means of controlling the amount of alcohol an individual could consume. Hence the expression to take someone down a peg.
Yeah, they're like the getting pegged at the
Wow.
bar. Don't know.
Yeah. You got 6 pegs, but now you only got 5, dude. You're down a peg.
Go down to the tavern and get a peg or two. Jesus. All right. Taverns and alehouses provided food and drink to their guests, whilst inns offered accommodation for weary travelers. These could include merchants, court officials, or pilgrims traveling to and from religious shrines, as immortalized by Geoffrey Chaucer in his Canterbury Tales. Inns also served military purposes. One of the oldest, dating from 1189 AD, is Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem in Nottingham, and is said to have acted as a recruitment center for volunteers to accompany King Richard I, the Lionheart, on his crusade to the Holy Lands.
Of course. Buy me a beer. I'll come follow you anywhere.
Well, Jim might buy you one. He said this is a very timely article that Tara and I are going on a 2-week trip in May, shared between England and Gibraltar.
Nice.
Very good. Alehouses, inns, and taverns collectively became known as public houses and then simply as pubs around the reign of King Henry VII. A little later in 1552, an act was passed that required innkeepers to have a license in order to run a pub. It's always the guys trying to get their tax money. In 1577, it is estimated that there were some 17,000 alehouses, 2,000 inns, and 400 taverns throughout England and Wales. Taking into account the population of the period, that would equate to around one pub for every 200 persons.
Yeah, you got to make sure you don't have overcrowding.
Yeah, so to put that into context, that same ratio today would be approximately one pub for every 1,000 persons. Happy days. Throughout history, ale and beer have always formed a part of the staple British diet. The brewing process itself making it a much safer option than drinking water at the time. Mm-hmm. Although both coffee and tea were introduced into Britain around the mid-1600s, their prohibitive prices ensured that they remained the preserve of the rich and famous. Just a few decades later, however, things changed dramatically when cheap spirits such as brandy from France and gin from Holland hit the shelves of the pubs. The Gin Acts of 1736 and 1751 reduced gin consumption to a quarter of its previous level and returned some semblance of order back to the pubs.
Yeah, damn. The age of the stagecoach heralded yet another new era for the pubs of the time, as coaching inns were established on strategic routes up and down and across the country. Such inns provided food, drink, and accommodation for passengers and crew alike, as well as changes of fresh horses for their continued journey. The passengers themselves generally consisted of two distinct groups: the more affluent, who could afford the relative luxury of traveling inside the coach, and the others who would be left clinging on to the outside for dear life. The insiders would of course receive the warmest greetings and be welcomed into the innkeeper's private parlor or salon. The outsiders, meanwhile, would get no further than the inn's bar room. The age of the stagecoach, although relatively short-lived, did establish the precedents for the class distinctions that were continued in rail travel from the 1840s onward. Like the railways that operated a first, second, and even third class service, so that pubs evolved in a similar manner. Pubs of that time, even relatively small ones, would typically be split into several rooms and bars in order to cater for differing types and classes of customer.
Back to my notes. There we go. In today's open plan society, such walls have been removed, and now anyone and everyone is welcome in the Great British Pub. So welcome, in fact, that almost 1 in 4 Britons will now meet their future wife or husband in a pub.
Mm-hmm.
Historical note, the native British brew of ale was originally made without hops. Ale brewed with hops was gradually introduced in the 14th and 15th centuries. This was known as beer. By 1550, most brewing included hops, and the expression ale house and beer house became synonymous. Today, beer is the general term, with bitter, mild ales, stouts, and lagers simply denoting different types of beer.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, it's pretty cool. We could have gone in more detail. Hopefully, you didn't hear that earthquake of my wife just slamming the door next to us and all my beer bottles rattling. Uh, but yeah, it's that's it. It's pretty cool that this was first established back in the days of Roman times as an Italian wine house.
Yeah.
Who would have known how it matured into what it is now, the old rowdy English British pub? Okay, Chris, that was our brew buzz. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And I see that you still don't have any new and noteworthy beers written down here,
I
buddy.
don't. And
Come
and
on, man.
here's why. So I've had plenty of beers. No doubt about that. Because I see our snowstorm mahogany lager that was from our last episode.
Yeah.
Between then and now, there's, I don't know, 24 different beers that I checked into, but they were all, hey, I had a sample of this one, I had a pour
Mm-hmm.
of this one, and it was like a 3.75. Like, I tend to only do my new and noteworthy when it's 4-ish and above.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Not many of them met that criteria over the last 2 weeks. So
Okay. Okay.
I will
Defer to me.
graciously defer to you, and I'd love to hear about your new and noteworthy beers,
Well, of course you would,
especially the
because
first one.
the first one on the list was provided by my good buddy, Chris McKenzie. It's from Tampa Bay Brewing Company, 3 rye barrel aged Baltic porter.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, this is from the Badass Beer. This is a special beer made just for the Badass Beer Fest. And it only had 200 cans. I had can like 183 or 250 cans of 250 cans. That's a damn special beer.
Yeah.
And I saw, Chris, you didn't check into it. Did you not have this beer?
I swore I checked into it.
Yeah, well, you didn't check into it, so you might want to check into it. But um, here's what I had to say about it. Big thanks to my buddy Chris for sending me this special beer. Wonderful rye whiskey aroma that falls into the flavor and blends wonderfully with the Baltic Porter base. So many, I say wonderful a lot, wonderful flavors because this beer was wonderful and truly a great beer. 183 of 250 cans. That's my thing. I gave this a 5 cap rating. This beer, I blew my socks off. It was so well done, and I think I'm more sad at the fact that not more people can experience this beer because it truly was fantastic. The base beer came through in the flavor. It was a Baltic porter. You could tell it was a Baltic porter, and what worked so well was they didn't overdo that rye whiskey barrel. The spirits didn't overcome it. It really just kind of enhanced those Baltic porter flavors and just made it just a fantastic, layered, complex experience of flavors that were just every sip all the way down to the last one. Now, I will say in the first 3 quarters of the beer, when the beer wasn't as warm as I finished it, because it took a while to drink this beer. It was like a 11.
It's a big
And a half.
beer.
It was a big beer. And I drank it by myself, all 16 ounces,
Like a champion.
like a champion. It wasn't until I got to the last few sips that I really started to feel that alcohol it was there. It You sensed it when you're drinking it through the most of it, but it wasn't until it really warmed up that the alcohol like shined through. In reality, I did rate this before I got all the way to the last sip. because I just enjoy it so much. I got through like 2/3 of it, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this a 5. And then as I got to the last couple sips, um, I should have probably knocked it down a quarter cap because it did have some heat at the end. But you know what? That's just my own fault. I didn't drink it fast enough, but I was savoring it. But yeah, great beer. I just want to thank you, Chris. It was thoroughly enjoyed.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
All right, the next beer is also a little bit bigger beer. This is from Israel from my buddy Alex. It's Shapiro Jack's Winter Ale 2023 version. I get this beer. Alex brings me this beer every year. I've had probably 4 or 5 of the different yearly versions, and this one is labeled by year, so I can actually check into it. I think I had one year where I didn't realize it was that I hadn't checked it in, and I missed checking it in, but I actually had the beer. Um, but yeah, this is Israeli beer. My annual bottle of Jack's Winter Ale from my good friend Alex pours nicely with a 1-finger tan head with dense bubbles and sticks around. Dark amber color, sweet aroma of caramel and vanilla. The spirits really enhance the flavors. It's almost like gingerbread like. 4.5 cap rating. And my last beer, changing styles drastically, right? I had a Baltic Porter, I had a Winter Ale. Now I'm going to go to a good old fashioned IPA. And my lovely wife was out at the co-op, went by the beer aisle, talked to the beer guy and said, hey, I want something from my husband that he hasn't had yet. And the guy pulls out, well, this just came in today. The fresh collab from Fort George. It's their Fanzine IPA 2023 version. And this one is, let me make sure I check the collaboration between Fort George Brewery, which is the main brewery, and Georgetown Brewery out of Washington. And what I said about this beer, and again, it's an IPA, American IPA. Wow, name every bright hop flavor, and this beer has it. Great IPA with loads of flavor, hoppy, bitter, creamy, and even dank characteristics as well. 4.5 cap rating out of 5. A great beer. So I had a bit of a variety of my new and noteworthy this episode. I did drink a lot of different beers. I will mention this. Let me mention this real quick. Bell's just started distributing to Boise.
Oh,
I mean, just like last week. And they brought in this IPA sample pack that had Two Hearted, Big Two Hearted, or Big Hearted, or whatever it is, or double IPA, cold IPA, experimental IPA, and a hazy IPA. And now that I've had Bell's Two Hearted a few times over the last 15 years or whatever, and I understand that, you know, it was like the best IPA in the nation for years, like after year, you know, it took over from Russian River's
Pliny the Elder.
Pliny the Elder or whatever. But I'll tell you, it's a good beer. For me though, it just doesn't. And it wasn't that this was old, right? The can on date was 1 week before I drank it.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
this sample pack was put together and then shipped out, and I got like the first one, and it was a week old. So it wasn't like it was old. And Two Hearted is a good beer. It's just, I don't understand why there's so much hype over that beer. It's just not, for me, it's just not that special that makes it like so enamored. Second beer, the double IPA, Big Hearted or whatever it is, way too sweet, way too hard for me to drink. It's an IPA it's a double IPA that just I cringe at. I have 2 more cans that I'm going to struggle to drink because it just comes across too sweet, right? The flavors just, the alcohol comes out in it, not too good. The cold IPA, really good. Really enjoyed the cold IPA. Well done. Goes into one of the, you know, all the cold IPAs I've had pretty much have been, you know, like a 4 cap rating or above. I really enjoy them. And this one is up there. I think I gave it maybe a 3.75. But it's up there, right? It's up there. It's a good beer. And then the hazy IPA was good too. I've really enjoyed the hazy. It's good. So yeah, we got Bell's Brewing in town now. And I think we also got something else came into town and I haven't had it yet. And now I can't think of what it is. I need to go down to the co-op and see if I can pick up some of the. Uh, Gosh, I can't think of the brewery, but there is something else that came in town that I'm looking forward to trying as well. So, okay, Chris, that's it. Let's go ahead and close this show out. We made it short. What do you think about that?
That's
Um,
a pretty good short show.
yeah,
But you know what it
yeah,
was is because we didn't start out the show by going, and we're gonna make this one a short show.
yeah. Well, it's fairly short. But before we close it out, always want to give a chance to go ahead and raise a glass. So, who would like to raise a glass to tonight?
I have two, I guess, organizations that I'd like to raise a glass to. First one is our brand new sponsor, tintackers.com. So we're really excited to be partnering up with these guys. We have some giveaways that we'll be able to do in the very near future, just like we have with all of our previous sponsors. So keep an eye out for those. I'm sure Denny and I will come up with fun, creative ways to earn them, earn those giveaways. And then I wanted to give a big shout out to the folks over at Marker 48 Brewing Company. They took the Hop King Invitational for the second year in a row. They were part of a competition at Tampa Bay Brewing Company, for which I got to pour some beer for. And they took the Hop King Invitational crown one more time. And want to give a shout out to Tina and Mo over at Marker 48, Sean, Kyle Marrero, who we talk to pretty frequently on here. Finally got to meet him. But all the folks over at Marker 48, man, those guys turned out in droves. This logo was in more places on Tampa Bay Brewing Company's property than TBBC logos were. It was impressive.
Nice.
So cheers to you guys on that. And we look forward to trying out some beers from you guys. So cheers.
Right.
Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to this evening?
Well, first off, I still have a little beer left in my glass, so I can actually raise it for real. Our Patreon toast tonight goes to Amanda and Kevin Argauer. Cheers to you two. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. My other toast goes out to Johan Halberg. We mentioned him earlier. He actually drank some beers on Untappd you checked into. He and I had a conversation, private conversation, and I just wanted to raise my glass and let him know that, hey, I'm thinking about you. Happy birthday. We last show released on his birthday, so he got to celebrate his birthday by listening to our show. And I just want to raise a glass to you, Johan. And also my last toast goes out to Jim Kudzall. He has been watching us live on Facebook Live, but he sent me a link. He sent us a link. Actually, you could watch it too, Chris, to a video he put out on Rumble, which I never even heard of Rumble before, but it's like a YouTube clone, I guess, but maybe it's different. I don't know. I need to be learned on Rumble, but the video is how motion affects our concept of now, and it is a very well done explanation in simple terms that anyone could understand on how time interacts with people and each other and objects and everything. And I wrote him back explaining that, and it's about an hour long. It is a little bit lengthy, but it is fun to watch and see how it goes and to learn more about these complex ideas and realities that's hard to understand, right? A lot of people don't know how to explain it in simple terms. And I'll tell you what, Jim has it down with diagrams and things that you will understand pretty easily. And I really enjoyed it. And at the end of the whole thing, it's fun to see a little fun he had at the end of the video that made me laugh, and I chuckled quite a few times. So cheers to you, Jim. Thank you for sharing your video. I will have a link on our show notes to his video. If you want to go and support Jim, watch his video, give him praise, let him know that, hey, you appreciate his knowledge that he shared, go ahead and do that. I'm going to share it with my team at work once they get back from spring break. And I think it's fun. I work in in a physics industry. You know, I do a lot of physics, and I understood a lot of the concepts. But you know what? I always did have trouble understanding, you know, the sense of time and, you know, and perception of that time. So it was really really fun to listen to.
Jim said you
And of
also
course,
have to watch the credits too.
yeah, that's the end. It's fun to
Okay.
watch. So, also being a former serviceman, I want to raise my glass. I want to thank all those who have served and are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. Thank you for your service, and I hope you're able to return home safe to your families very soon. And Chris, you mentioned our new sponsor. Why don't you go ahead and toast our new sponsor?
So we'd love to raise a glass to the folks over at Tin Tactors. They are the provider of sweet metal beer signs that will make your walls happy. Tin Tackers has a vast selection of embossed aluminum beer signs, perfect for your garage, home bar, or man cave. They have the biggest selection with the best prices. They also have a mini tacker of the month club, a club just for craft beer lovers who collect tin tackers. A surprise in your mailbox every month. Go visit their website at tintackers.com and use the promo code TAPTHECRAFT at checkout to save 10% on your entire order to let them know that we sent you.
Right on. Go visit Tin Tackers. We will be getting some merch from them this week. So our next episode, we will be revealing what's inside one of these,
Mini
you know,
Tackers of the Month
mini
Club.
Tacker of the Month boxes. So look forward to that next episode. As well as we'll be supporting some of their tin tackers on the back of my wall for sure. I don't know about you, Chris. You have a fake wall, so
I have a fake wall, but the wall in front of me, when I get it there, that's a perfect wall right there
okay.
for tin tackers. But my green screen does cover up a lot of this nonsense over here.
No
So
problem. No problem. All right. Well, you can find the beers and the links to the articles mentioned in the show notes, mentioned in the show, in the show notes located on the show post at tapthecraft.com. Also linked in the description of the podcast that you're listening to on your podcast app right now. Just go to the little notes section and hit that link and visit the links that we have there. All right, Chris. It is time to bring the show to a close. It is last call. Let's go ahead and I'm totally out of it.
you're totally out
It's
of it?
just yeah.
We're just repeating stuff?
I just totally think I just messed up the outro. But we do want to thank all of you for downloading and listening to the show. We ask you to please tell a friend, and of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And as a reminder, we release a new episode every 2 weeks. Now, go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.